What's up, tea drinkers? Who's ready to spill? Welcome to The Tea with KG, hosted by your girl, Kaylee Grace. Here you'll find your weekly boost of real talk mixed with laughter, healing, and all of those vulnerable, messy moments in between. The Tea with KG is a safe space for you to show up exactly as you are. We are here to share real-life stories from around the globe and be a community of love, joy, and celebrating life. This is a real deal show, so there will be coarse language and sensitive topics discussed. The most beautiful stories oftentimes emerge from the darkest of places, and we're here to explore it all. There's room for everyone at this tea time, so grab your drink of choice, spark it up, or just relax and soak it up. Cheers, and let's spill. What's up, tea drinkers? We are back with another episode of The Tea with KG. I'm your host, Kaylee Grace. We are here to spread the sparkle. I have another amazing guest joining me this week, the beautiful Shayla Romanyshyn. What's up?
Hello, thanks for having me, Kaylee.
I'm so excited to have you. So, oh my God, Shayla and I met over 10 years ago.
Yeah,
In Australia. We were living it up. We were having so much fun frolicking around. I know Surfers Paradise for sure. That's where we first met, right? Was it Surfers or before Surfers?
that's
Byron Bay?
right. Yeah.
I can't remember. I just know we did the East Coast, like a lot of it together. But either way,
Mhm.
super fun. We loved life. We made the most of it for sure. Lots of funny stories
Yeah,
from
we
those
spent our time.
days. Absolutely. So I will let Shayla explain who she is and what she does with the good old who are you and what do you do?
Thanks, Kaylee. So as you mentioned, my name's Shayla Romanyshyn. That long Ukrainian last name sometimes trips people up. So I really am proud you said that very well,
Girl,
actually. So that was
I
good.
literally feel like we had lessons on how to say your last name when we met, and it was like flashbacks. I didn't forget. I was like, it's Romanyshyn. I know it's Romanyshyn.
Totally. It is. Honestly, you're probably like top three people that have ever said it, but you're right. We did go through some lessons, but I'm proud of you, girl. That was
It's good memory from all that time.
100%. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, I'm a 30-year-old female that lives in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So I'm a prairie girl. Some people, if you ask some friends or colleagues, they might call me the boss ass bitch or the boss babe. That's kind of
I
the life I
like
live right
that.
now.
Mm.
Yeah. And yeah, or some might just say I have too much on my plate, but we can argue both ways.
Absolutely. I'm here for a badass boss bitch. Let's go.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, of course, that comes with lots of lessons I've learned along the way, which we can touch on tonight for sure.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So you're the regional director for Hub Financial and also the president for it's an entrepreneurship. I haven't heard of it, but is it a Saskatchewan based thing?
It is a Saskatchewan-based
Okay,
thing, and there
cool.
are some variations of it across the country, but it is
Hmm.
pretty unique to Saskatchewan. So, yeah, I kind of got introduced into that organization kind of through some of the companies, just some of the network that I've done. But, I started in the financial services industry about 10 years ago. Started with a local private equity firm that focused on raising capital. And then, yeah, I kind of worked as their regional rep, working with financial advisors, other professionals that would really deal with clients when making investment decisions. So, financial world
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah, I
So
was gonna say
raising
that stuff sounds fancy to me. I'm like, ooh, the money. She working with that money.
money. Yeah, and as you mentioned, I moved over to Hub Financial, which is a company that has a parent company that's globally recognized, and then I work for kind of the Prairie region here in Canada under Hub Financial, which is awesome. But what makes some of those roles really exciting is because I get the freedom to kind of get involved in the community, which has really been important to me forever.
Yes,
And the
I
one that
love
you're
that.
referencing, yeah,
Yeah.
is called Skype. So often people search Skype, and that is not the same thing. We're called the Saskatchewan Young Professionals and Entrepreneurs, and I've been a member for many years. I fell in love with the organization. I started as a board member probably about 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and then this year, just past or in 2022, at the very end of the year, they announced me as president for our region, which is really exciting.
Awesome. How does that work? Do you get voted in or like how do they do it?
You do get voted in, yeah. So it's quite
Nice.
formal. Having a good time. We do have formalities, so I did get voted in. They didn't just say, "Well, I guess you."
She's awesome. She's the one. Yeah. I love that. That's really great. So, what kind of things do you do with this organization?
Yeah, so Site has, a few different focuses. Our motto is connect, inspire, and engage. And so it really falls into that category of that young professional entrepreneur. And
Mm.
so, I know you've had a lot of experience with startups, whether they're in the tech industry or, kind of in other areas. But, in Saskatchewan, we're pretty diverse. We've got, really big focus on every industry sector you can think of. And the thing is you don't really start as the CEO, right? Maybe in
That's
your own
right.
company, but when you're kind of growing, you don't have that executive team. You don't have a big team. So you start somewhere, and a lot of that comes from networking and really building your business. And Site is the
Exactly.
location, yeah, people come to do that.
Oh my God. Okay. I love that. I just have to say, because like this
Yeah,
particular, like this podcast, for instance, this is like another one of the entrepreneurial ventures I've taken, but this is like the one. Like I feel it. But
yeah.
also, like what you're saying with like getting like different networking, that would be so helpful. Like for someone like me with, I mean, I'm doing it all myself, but I know that's not feasible forever, you know? So I love that you offer that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. That's
Well,
awesome.
it is absolutely, Kid. You hit that on the head too. Is that you have an amazing outgoing personality, but it didn't. People might come to you and probably say, "Oh, it's just easy because you're just outgoing." Like you have to start, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
And
Oh my
so,
gosh. Yes, the starting of this was so overwhelming because I'm not a techie girl. I don't know how to do all this stuff. I can talk to people, no problem. But all the other parts of it, I was like, what is this?
to it, absolutely. And as an entrepreneur, you have to think of all these different things. And so the only way to do that is to really, talk to other people that have done it before, that mentorship piece of it, which is so big. And so like I
Yeah.
can remember even, myself starting, 10 years ago in the industry, and I'm this girl with blonde hair who doesn't know anything about networking. And I was told by my CEO that I'm supposed to go to these, big events that are 500 or, 1,000 people and represent the company. Like, what am I supposed to say to these people? I don't know what I'm doing. And so it was places like Site where you can get to know some of these like-minded individuals, get to start your path there.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. Now I'm like, okay, after I'm done here, I'm gonna have to Google where is that in Vancouver because I like and
You
just
just
like you
start
said,
one. You start your own.
right? Yes. I'll get you as my pro to tell me how to do it all.
There, girl.
Right? I love that so much because like entrepreneurship is such a beautiful thing, but it is so challenging because like it's all you, like you're the one that has to take those steps and like go do the do. Like nobody's going to be hounding you like do your work, like you have to do it. So I'm always curious to hear, I mean, you work with entrepreneurs, how like do you give them mindset tips or what are your top 3 tips for an entrepreneur? Like I always like to get in there. I'm
Yeah.
like, what's the mindset stuff that you would be
Yeah.
talking about?
It's true, and you're right, Kayla. Honestly, there's always gonna be themes within that, right? And a lot of these things I find people have been telling people for a long time, right? There are things you've heard before. Every entrepreneur has heard things like, set goals and make sure they're attainable goals so that you can actually match that. And I think that's all good, but I think there's a lot of things too, like, social media can be such a deficit and such an amazing thing for us, right? Because we're comparing
Yes.
ourselves all the time. So even in, my years, even in the industry, for me, it was getting out of my own head. And I didn't come up with that, but it
Preach,
was
girl.
mentors. Yeah, it was mentors. And there was one lady that comes to mind specifically. And, she's kind of the boss's bitch I always said I wanted to be, right? And so
I
she
love
always
it.
told me, like, this is your problem. It is right between your ears. It is getting out of your own head. That's going to be what stops you the most because it'll be your family that's the most critical. It'll be your best friend. It's going to be maybe even your partner in life. And if you can get over not only that part of it, the critical piece, but even in your own head, because there are so many, places even in my life where you've been there, right? And you are the one that literally stops yourself.
Always, literally,
Yeah.
like this was a plan. I know I talk about this example often, but it's the perfect
No.
example. I
Yeah.
had this in my head and my soul, and my heart just knew I needed to do this. I'm saying years before I hit the record
Yeah.
button because I was so scared, all the what ifs, a little bit of the perfectionist syndrome coming in because like I know what I want it to be and I'm like I can see that, but it's just not realistic. Like you got to start somewhere. It's not going to be
Yeah.
perfect right away. You got to
No.
get better and keep going. So I feel that so hard. Like most of the time, it's me. I'm the problem.
Yeah.
What's that Taylor Swift song? Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. I don't even know that whole song,
No.
but I've seen that real TikTok so many times now. I know
Okay.
that part of it. But yeah, like, and it's so true. And I feel like that's so relatable for so many dreamers out there. It's like you have these big visions, but then it's like for me, overwhelm's a big thing too. I'm like, oh God, because there's so many things and it's so overwhelming with like social media, especially because it's all the information, which is
Yeah,
beautiful. But it's like, how do you
yeah,
pick? Which one do I go with?
absolutely. And I think you actually mentioned something too that comes to mind even within this kind of category is that envisioning it too, right? And I think there's so much power in envisioning where you're trying to go because, you know, you're gonna have all the naysayers along the way, but as long as you're keeping, whether it's a vision board, if it's Pinterest account, like whatever that looks like, you keep envisioning that. And I cannot believe how many times I've went, oh my gosh, that happened. And yeah, I've been thinking about this for years and I've
Yes.
I've manifested what that was, and
Ooh,
it can be
yes,
something,
girl. Manifest. Let's
like
go.
either
Let's
it's
go.
her, it's even for me. I mean, I look back to triathlon training, right? Would I ever thought I was going to be a triathlete? No. Did I pass the end? Yes.
Okay,
But
wait.
yeah,
Okay, what? Tell me more about that. I'm like, you did a triathlon? Like, what?
I know I go all over the map. I said, well, and even too, you talk about these lessons or things you got to keep in mind, whether you're an entrepreneur or professional. You got to be open to trying things. And it kind of comes
Yes.
back into a few different stories I'll tell just about being open. But I think that being open to trying new things can lead you to so many different areas in your life,
I
and
just
you'll
got
regret it if you
chills.
don't. Yeah.
The chills
So
always mean yes for me. I'm like, yep, that's so true. Oh my
this
God. Like,
this
even
means something.
think about our Australia adventure. I never would have met you if we both
I
didn't make that choice.
Yeah. And look at this. Years later, look at where we're at and what
That's
happened, right?
it. The
So
networking. I was saying that to my partner. He was like, he always asks like who I'm interviewing. So I was saying,
yeah,
oh yeah, it's my friend Shayla. I met her, la la la. And he's like, these people, like you've met them so long ago. And I'm like, but there was a reason. Obviously, you're a beautiful soul. So of course we were gonna meet each other. But just
yeah,
when I look at where we're at now, it's just so amazing to me because I'm like, look at this. Like, look at this. All from one
yeah. And
choice.
you created.
Yes. So amazing. With the triathlon, did you do every single thing or did you like do it in a team? Because I always envisioned doing a team because I'm a swimmer. So I'm like, yes, give me the water. But the other two things, I was like, I don't want to do those. But you did
Yeah,
the
so we'd
whole
be a good
thing.
team. Yeah, we'd be a good team because I did do the whole thing, but I should not have done the swim. I was absolutely the underdog because I was 100% the last one out of the lake. But it was a girlfriend of mine that we had worked together, and she was, she's years older than me, but we connected. I've been always told I have an old soul, and so let's embrace it. And
Yes.
so her and I training together was awesome because, challenged me to something new. I'm a little bit younger, so it kind of helped her keep up with some of the athletic pieces, even though she could still kick my butt. And so, we started training. And what we really said was that we just need to sign up and just decide we're going to do it. And we'll just make it happen and figure it out along the way. And so we did. So we signed up, and about, 2.5, 3 years later, we were outside of Edmonton at a small lake and looking at this water, wetsuit on, going, what the hell am I doing? You know, you train for years, even though, I was in my 20s, so you're still trying to play a couple roles, right? You're still partying and having
Oh,
fun and doing all
yes. How long
and
is a triathlon also? Are they all the same or do they all differ?
not. No, it really depends. We did what was called it's a half Ironman. So it's a long
Oh.
triathlon. It's about 2 kilometer swim, you 90-kilometer bike, and then you do a half marathon, which is another 21 kilometers.
Did you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just wrapping my brain around those numbers you just said for the bike and the run. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, but
You
it was
go, girl.
also
You're a boss ass bitch. That's what you were thinking.
just decided. I said, we're just gonna do this. Okay. And yeah, like I can't tell you, Kaylee, how crazy, going through that mindset of like, you should just stop now. And that whole this is your own problem, the space between your ears, it got to me so bad because I saw people in my age category starting to head back while I'm still kind of running. And I remember even passing some of the teammates I've trained with for years, and I'm like, how much time do I have? Do you think I could make it? And before they could even say no, the look on their face said it to me. They're like, time's not looking good. And so I had to tell myself in that moment, you can do it and just keep going. And I said
Yes.
that over and over and over for about 2 hours. And I ran the fastest half marathon I've ever ran because it was mind over matter.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Okay. Stories like that give me life because it really proves to you it is. Like, I used to do CrossFit for the longest time and it's still great. It's just not where I'm at anymore. But same thing, certain lifts, if I knew how heavy it was, I was scared to put it over my head or to do whatever. I was like, no. But if they didn't tell me what was on there, I could just do it. So it's so freaking true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just that mind over matter, and you're so much more capable than what you think you are, and in any stage, right? And so even within a business, you're kind of hitting that, that first goal in sales, or you've hired two more people than you thought you were at that point, and margins are looking good, and things are kind of progressing. Something is going to come up. So that's another thing to be aware of, is that change is inevitable. Like, change is
Yes.
going to happen, good or bad.
Whether you like it or not, it's coming for you. And that's like, sometimes I have to laugh at it because, we all go through these things in life. And sometimes you're just like, what? Like, how is this where I'm at? Good and bad, exactly like you said. But a lot of times, too, those hard moments, don't get me wrong, while you're in it, no, you're feeling all the
Mhm.
things. But when you move through those sticky bits and like approach it
Yeah,
as like a challenge, not as a problem, but as like a how can
yeah,
I overcome this? Like
yeah,
that's where it's at. And again, it always comes back to your beautiful mindset, that beautiful brain, and it
yeah.
always will take you places. Like trust yourself too.
Always.
Intuition, people, you need to
Yeah,
like lean into that more because the
yeah,
more you like try to ignore your intuition, it can be challenging to reconnect with it. Or if you go through
oh, yeah,
trauma and things like that, that kind of cloud you a little bit. Because I found I've always been very in tune and like very spiritual and into that, but went through
yeah,
some things in my adult life that really rocked me and really like
yeah,
it was very difficult to work through. And then after coming out of that, I feel like I am so much more in touch with my intuition
yeah,
again. And when she's saying yes, it's like a certain feeling you can't replace. Like you don't
yeah,
question it. And what the problem is our brains will come in and that's where the second guessing starts to happen. But if you know in
yeah,
your soul, you want to start that business, you want to get out there, you want to join
yeah,
a group, whatever. Don't second guess. Like I battled with
yeah,
that for so long. And I'm like, that was another thing holding me back from approaching things was
yeah,
this.
yeah. I know. I have a perfect story for this moment, because
Yes.
I'm being in a moment with that. And so, even through, kind of high school, and you're getting into, university, I was always that person that I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew about myself that I was open, and, I'm personable, I'm very
Yep.
outgoing. So, like, where does that lead me? So dad one day is like, well, I mean, your aunt is a nurse and she makes good money and she's outgoing, and, some things you want to do. Why don't you try it? And I went, oh, what the heck? That should be a fit. And I remember kind of starting and going to school. I was working for a nursing home, and I just was fighting with something. It just didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was in Saskatoon, and I'm at a red light, and I look to my side, and there are two women standing there. One in scrubs, and she looks exhausted, and again, they have a role and they're the most amazing people out there. I just knew it wasn't me. Right next to her
Exactly.
was a boss ass bitch holding her brief on her phone, and it just hit me like someone knocked me on the side of the head. That's kind of the route I want to pursue. And so sure
Yeah.
enough, in that moment when I accepted that that was kind of fate, or I was kind of moving down that path, I went to the mall because I was on the way to, I don't know, deal with a cell phone something. And I'm standing there, I remember at Telus, and this guy next to me was a business recruiter. And he was a client of mine when I worked for a golf course years ago. And he goes, well, I
What
think
are
I'll
the
get
odds?
like, let's do this. And I thought, you gotta be freaking kidding me. So I said, okay, let's do it. So I did all the, resume upload, and he helped me with that. And, you do like your speed word test on keyboards. And yeah, I kind of found myself into the industry quite quickly and just started to freaking move.
That to me is the universe being like, yes. And it's just too freaky, like the way it happened and how and what are the chances you run into
I,
this person? Like,
yeah, it just, yeah, kind of to like see those two kind of options in life in front of me, and, running into, this guy that could help and was willing to too. So, again, being open to, hey, I know someone that could help you. Okay, let's talk about it.
yes. And I find too, like when you connect with people who you've already kind of had an interaction with, for me anyway, the trust is there more. Cause again, I feel
Yeah,
like with the way the world is on, I'm talking like more
Yeah.
online kind of stuff, you have to be a bit more careful just because you don't know
Yeah.
sometimes who's on the other end of that. Like I have people reach out a lot like, we want to
Oh,
help you with your podcast or this, and I'm like, I don't think you're real, like I don't know you, and like I just don't
you
think
are a
it works
robot.
like that. Yeah, I'm like, I am not getting scammed today. Like no.
Yeah. Leave me it is, and you have to be a filter, right? And especially you kind of being your own boss, like, you have to filter through so much, not only just day-to-day noise, but now I've got to filter through literally people reaching out to me that I'm not sure if they're supposed to help or not,
Right.
and so now you're trying to weigh out odds of, who do you accept help from, who do you don't? But, mentorship goes a long
Exactly.
way. So no matter what, recognizing mentorship is a big, important piece too.
Oh, yes. Because, like, again, before starting this, I looked to, I just searched random people and I
Yeah.
found these groups of people who do they're not the same as, like, it's not the same style or anything, but they're very successful in what they do. So I was like, okay, like, I can
Mm.
pick up my background's marketing and things like that. So I can look at what I need because I already had
Yeah.
the vision, which we talked about.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful. And plus, like that trust was there because I saw their credibility and things like that. So I think that's important too when you're looking to mentors if you don't know them or someone doesn't recommend you. Like, look at what they've done and does it resonate
Yeah.
with you? Like, is that your vibe? And there's another girl, I love following her. She's definitely more my vibe. And I'm like, I aspire, she's like a girl I would aspire to be like. Like, I love
Yeah.
seeing her journey and how she got to where she is. And it also is a good tip because I have this problem where I want it all now. And it's not
Yeah.
that I don't want to work hard,
Yeah.
but it's just because like I see it. I see the end. Well, I'm sure the end goal is going to
Yeah.
change a million times, but for the most part, I
Yeah.
see kind of the big
Yeah.
picture. I'm a big picture kind of thinker. So
Yeah. Me
it's a
too. I
blessing
love
and
it.
a curse. Yeah, it's great. And then when it gets to the nitty gritty, I'm like, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's a learning process for sure. But I look at like her timeline and I'm like, okay, she didn't achieve this in a year. She's
Yeah.
in 4 years now. So I'm like, you have time, like relax. You're gonna get there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and good for you for, searching that out sometimes too, right? Because I think that's sometimes where people, hold themselves back because, they look at these people that have had success and, are kind of kicking it at, rolling with things. And you think, well, why would they even want to help me? Or, why would I even reach out to them? But, some of the
Yeah.
best advice I've had from, CEOs of large companies I've had opportunities to sit down with and, I've expressed some of, my concerns maybe about like, how am I supposed to get to where you're at? You've done this and yada yada. And how am I even supposed to talk to people like you? And you kind of, the one CEO I remember, he looked at me and goes, "What do you mean people like me?" He goes, "We're just people, Shayla." And I went, "Yeah, you're right. You guys, you've done the hard work. And, when they have that respect of you kind of coming up and being open to talking with them and, talking to them like they're just a normal person, just because they may have a lot bigger, many more zeros on the end of their
Yes.
name,
It's like
you
they're a
know,
celebrity almost. Like that's how I feel. I'm like, oh, like you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I feel like, I mean, for people who are wired like me anyway, it's okay to reach out for help. You don't have to be like a lone wolf forever. That's another thing I find too. It's like releasing control over like what I do because I know what I expect or my standard or what I put into it. And then it's like, is this someone, if I let them edit this, are they going to do it the way I would do it? Like, you know what I mean? So I feel like
right.
that's something I also struggle with as an entrepreneur, which I know I'm going to have to get over. Like I have, but I also think it has to be the right fit.
Oh, for sure. I agree. I think there's, so much value in kind of, looking through who those people are going to be that you're going to put on your team, right? Because, even talking about SIPE, kind of putting myself in that president role. Well, I've seen, different roles within that board. I've, been the
Yeah.
communications chair and kind of worked through some of that or, the events chair. And so, you get to a spot where I'm at right now. And, I'm very much like you, where I've got, I always say this 50,000 foot view of, where we're going to
Yes.
take things. And
The
so,
dreamer in
being
us.
a yeah, right? And then, taking that vision and making it happen and keeping that in everyone's forefront is really your purpose. And you're right, delegating is such a hard thing sometimes because I'd rather just do it myself because then I know it's done.
Me too.
Everyone's problem, right? And then you now have to, switch your focus, and it's more about empowering those people, right? And,
Yes.
new opportunities and helping them see things in a different way. And so it's less about, check marking off what the to-do list is or, kind of micromanage them because nobody likes that.
Oh my God,
So
that's the worst. I'm a very free
yeah,
bird. So I'm like, no. I'm like, I will get it done and I will get it done awesome. Don't bug me though.
exactly. But it is, and I think there's, it's, I don't know if I just see it a lot in the corporate world because that's what I surround myself with, but yeah, micromanaging is a huge problem. And so I think when, you can have leaders around you that say, good job and, go run with it and,
I trust
go
you.
work your, I trust you, so
Yes.
when you can feel that empowerment from someone in a leadership role, you will run so far, you won't even be able to see the line behind you.
Oh, that'd be Shay with her triathlon. See ya.
Well, I wasn't that fast at the very end, but just faster.
But you finished and you got there. So that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
I feel like I'm this is typical me. I'm like doot 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 doot. But how did you initially get into SIPE? Was it just through your corporate job? Is that how you discovered it, or like how did you find it?
Well, to think back, I remember understanding the value of community involvement. And I think that's something that, people often look at successful people and, well, your dad must have gave you the company, or, just naturally were able to kind of find that success, or you knew you had a rich uncle that helped pay for the money to do it, whatever. And I think the problem there is that I think there's so much value in community involvement when you put the more you put in, the more you get back from it.
Yes. Oh
And
my
so
God. Yes. I'm sorry.
I
I get so
just
excited when you say stuff like that because literally giving back and gratitude and showing your appreciation, it's just like part of the human flow. Like that's why our
yeah,
world's a little messed up. I feel like there's not enough
okay.
compassion and giving back and gratitude. Like we have to do that to keep the cycle going. And I love, love, love that you value that.
Absolutely. And I think understanding that from, the younger you can or the earlier in your business you can, I think the faster and more growth you'll see in a shorter period of time, right? And so I think for me, I just, that's what I was told. It's like, well, get involved. And I think that, just naturally growing up, I was kind of involved in everything. I didn't really have
Yeah.
one thing I was good at. I played sports, I did modeling, I, had this, and this. And so, for me, I wanted to find a better way to kind of meet people that were like me, right? Because, even some of
Yeah.
my best friends, they go, what do you mean you go to a networking event, right? Like, what the heck? What do you do at a networking event, right?
Yes,
And so,
exactly. Building that
yeah,
community of like-minded people. You need those. Of course, it's awesome to have tons of different people. I love all that. But with your work and your business, like it's so good. You need those, like we were saying, like it's like mentorship, but even support from this
yeah,
level. It's so important.
yeah. It is. And I mean, what I loved about SIPE, and, there are tons of organizations out there, especially, like you said, if it's something that's kind of a niche to your own business, there are a lot of organizations out there that focus just on that. There's two that I also sit on the board for, one called Advocates, right? And so it's an advocacy group for financial advisors across Canada. And so
Cool.
for that, when you pick kind of like you find a niche, you never know what can come out of that. When I go back to SIPE, what I think is really cool is that, we have, every industry sector you can think of in there. You've got
Yes.
electricians to the real estate agent to the tech companies and that. And so, I find these people come out of it and they're all looking at each other and especially telling me in my role now, going, this has been the best event yet, or my best year in my business yet, because at your events, I met my accountant, I met a lawyer, I met someone that gave me some advice on a business idea I never thought of, or new technology that
Yeah.
came out I didn't know about. So go out, listen, shake someone's hand, you never know what's going to come out of
Yes.
that.
It's so true. And like again, I keep thinking of like just even different events because like my partner, he has a fashion line. So they had a fashion show,
Uh-huh.
like they were featured there. So I went, of course, because let's go. But I met such
For
good
sure.
people and I had people come on my podcast just from that event, just from going out and being like, hey, and it was just so natural. I think something too to bring light to, because I know not everybody's outgoing or they're shy, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like to go into a room of people they don't know and be like, hi. So, do you have
Yeah.
any words of advice for people who maybe have a hard time with networking? Like, is it just one of those
Yeah.
things where you're like, you just got to do it? Or do you give people advice of maybe say stuff like this?
Two things kind of come to mind. I think the first thing is just to remember that everyone's in your shoes. Like whether you're outgoing or you're not outgoing, everyone's in the same shoe as you are. They're all just looking to meet someone new. They never know where that conversation will go, and you'd be shocked about how amazing, or what amazing things can happen out of it. So trying to keep that kind of in the front of your mind would probably be the first one. I think the second one too is that I always try and encourage a lot of entrepreneurs or professionals I work with that, like, ask unique questions. So, stop asking the things like, so how was your week? Or what's
Yeah,
the new
the
year?
fluffy questions. Yeah, like get in there.
Why they, where, how they got to where they are. why do they want to be what they are? Where did they find the, resources to get to where they were? Like, just try and ask things that were a little bit different. Sometimes, even for entrepreneurs too, you could think of questions that you would want to be asked. So, you
Exactly.
can kind of put themselves in their shoes too. So, yeah, and that's not easy. I mean, heck, you could probably Google some of those type of questions, but
Yeah.
knowing your shoes is so helpful and might calm a little bit about the, nervousness.
Oh, for sure. And like sometimes too, like I've done a lot of like public speaking and acting and pageant queen, all that stuff, but it's all about presentation and speaking. So I feel like for me, I've had so much practice at it. So that, because when I was very, very little, I was very shy, but that didn't last long, I guess. But still, I was very shy. Like I did not, and I still don't. I don't always want attention on me, but sometimes, it just happens that way. But I would practice in front of the mirror, like do that. It will calm you because it'll become like a muscle memory in your brain. You'll just think of the
Sure.
questions. If you have them Googled and you're like, oh God, I'm going to forget, practice. Like pretend like you're running lines or something. It might feel silly, but it helps.
Yeah.
And it helps you see your face, kind of what you look like when you're
Yeah.
engaging. It all helps because body language it is for me anyway. I read body
Oh,
language
yeah.
big time.
I agree, it is. And it's right. It's like putting yourself on paper. Writing your own bio is one of the most awkward things to do because you're not
Yes.
sure what you're supposed to say, how you're supposed to say it, depends on the audience and all the things. And then you're trying to say, well, now I've got to record myself and then watch it. It's cringy. It is really one of the most cringy things, but it is so helpful because
Right?
you're right. Again, I don't know if I blame it on the Ukrainian background, but I talk with my hands a lot. And so I have to calm myself from not talking with my hands. And I also pace a lot. So am I pacing too much? Am I making enough eye
Mhm.
contact? Am I, being too expressive, even though that shouldn't be a bad thing?
Yes, right? I'm all about it. Let me have it. It's the right place for it here.
Yeah, there we go. Good. I'm glad. But yeah, I used to do that all the time, especially, yeah, people else, I do a lot of public speaking myself and,
Yeah.
oh, well, you're just so outgoing, you're just good at it. And it's like, no, I spent hours perfecting the things that I didn't like about how I public speak. I recorded myself. I had someone else come with me and, make signs at me. If I was talking my hands too much, they would do this
Yeah.
or,
Or like also two filler words. We all do it. And I
yeah,
find like the ums or the you knows or the whatevers. That is
wow.
like I think when like when you're just talking to a friend, it's just whatever. Like you don't think about it as much. But
Yeah,
like if you're in front of people or doing something, like it's very you have to be mindful of that. So it's like I think too, I love speaking from the heart, but being mindful of what you're saying is very
yeah,
important. Like kind of having a little bit of a game plan. It doesn't have to be perfectly planned, depending on what you're doing, of course.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, even you're right. And I found one thing for me because I think I was so nervous sometimes, I would just end up talking so fast. And I naturally do talk fast,
I do
right?
too.
And to not only stop walking so fast, stop moving my hands, stop talking so quickly. And that was tough. And so some of the best advice I got too when I was, trying to really get that public speaking perfected was just slow down. And if you pause, because you actually can't remember what you're about to say, that's okay. Just
Yeah.
pause.
They don't
It's a
know. They don't
dramatic.
know the difference. Yeah, and breathing. I always bring it back to the breath and people are like, "Okay, yoga girl." But I'm like, "No. It is the most grounding thing you can do when you're up here, which a lot of people get nervous. Even myself, I get nervous if I'm going to go talk in front of people, but I use it. Like I use my nerves to I don't know, it just works. But
Yeah,
big deep breaths. If you have to take one when
yeah,
you're up there, that's okay too because your body will
yeah,
thank you. It will be like, "Thank God. I'm like
absolutely.
I can calm down a little
Yeah.
bit."
And that even goes to say, I think a lot of people respect when you are in a vulnerable position, especially when you're on stage or, publicly speaking. So,
Yeah.
I find, the more honest and kind of humble and down to earth you are, the more people like it.
Yes.
I've taken, ridiculous jokes to stages that people are like, I don't even know how she had the guts to say that, and they were, it's just, yeah, to me, it was kind of being the funny, goofy Ukrainian girl was kind of
Because
my thing. And
that's who you are though. Like that's you. And I think that's so important is honor who you are. Cause I feel that like I'm
yes,
gonna just be natural and silly and funny. Like that's
yeah,
where our personality is. So let yourself
yeah,
shine too. Like also don't feel too like too robotic. Like you don't have to like
structured.
practice so exactly. Like you can let yourself be and people respond so
Yeah.
much better to that. One of the
Oh,
notes I've
yeah,
always received is like they in university too, we'd have to give presentations and things. They'd be like, "We felt like you were talking to us. Like it felt so natural."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Thank you." I'm like, "Nailed it." Like that's what I wanted, even though it was for like some crazy business thing, which should be very formal. But I'm like, that's not my personality, and it would not read right if I was too formal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There is. And yeah, and it comes from, kind of like standing up for what you believe in and, kind of really embracing that piece that you want to share with other people. And sometimes that's not hard to express, right? That's something that, when you're kind of going back into really standing up for what you believe in, I've had experiences like that where it can go really bad and it go really well. And for me, the outcomes were great because at the end of the day, I was standing up for what I believed in.
Yes,
And so,
queen. Yes. I wanted to ask you, you just struck this in my head when you were speaking. I want to talk about being a woman in business. Do you have
mm,
like I feel like as women, we've come a
yeah,
long way in those terms. Do you
yeah,
find that in today's world in what you
yeah.
do, is there still hardships? If so, what kinds? Or do you feel like I know you feel empowered or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing, but do you still find there's little struggles here and there being a woman in business?
Yeah, it's interesting to watch over the past 10 years how it has evolved a lot and in a good way. Because
Yes,
there was a time over my 10 years where it felt like as a woman, you just were given a seat because you're a woman. It
right.
wasn't deserved or, something that you were capable of, right? It was, yeah, you've got blonde hair and yeah, that's just why you're there. And so at that point, then you're kind of being, and that's just a bit of a transitional mentality too. And, among other things, is just kind of keeping you in your place. We'll let you have the
Mm,
seat, but we're not really going to let you participate. I don't personally find that as much anymore. And it could be, some of the organizations I'm in. I've actually seen more organizations where you're seeing women take the power seat and take
yes,
those seats as
queen.
presidents. And yeah, so
I
it's
love
nice to
that.
seeing that flip, right? And, there are tons of statistics out there. I've seen it on the corporate side, even on the volunteer side, that having that empathetic, mentality from a woman, it adds a lot to what can happen in a corporate setting or on a board.
I agree 1000%. At the end of the day, it comes
Yeah,
back to people and being you have to care. Like we have to care about people. Like that's I just think we need to take it back to basics sometimes and that's like the
yeah,
key, right?
yeah,
I love so much that the women world has transformed and I know it has, but I like to hear it straight from someone who's right up in there. I'm like, "Yes." And it's so good to see it cuz,
yeah,
well overdue in my opinion.
absolutely.
Take that president's seat, honey.
Thank you, deserved.
Yes. What would you tell your younger self? Like if you knew what you knew now, what would you tell young Shayla?
Oh boy, that is a loaded question.
Right?
I mean, I know. There's so many directions I could go with that. I think, probably one of the biggest is just, accepting and, seeking that mentorship, I think is really important, kind of humbling yourself to be, it's okay, following from someone's footsteps because I find, a lot of times, you're, in my experience, I felt like I was trying to be somebody and I wasn't really listening or, realizing who I was. So, in part of that mentorship, what's happened from my experience is that, I found people that really believed in me, and those were the ones that really wanted to help mentor you too. And
Yes.
I can think of even, from the corporate world, there was a lady I worked with, and she is incredible. And I always just wanted to be her. But I'm not going to be able to do everything like her. I'm going to be able to do the successful things that she's taught me in the way that I am able to
With a
do it.
Shayla twist.
Give the
Yes.
Shayla twist, exactly.
Hmm.
And so, things that I really appreciate about some of her mentorship is that, she was the same person, whether, in our travels, when we stopped by her family farm, she was the same person there as she was on stage in front of thousands of people, one on one. She was that humble, beautiful heart that you wanted to see more people be like.
I love
And
that.
so,
That speaks to my soul too. I love people like that.
yeah, and I think it was, not being so hard on yourself. It is okay to make mistakes. You're going to, and especially if you don't seek that mentorship and listen to it is another piece of it because I think it comes with a lot of believing in yourself. Recognize when someone believes in you and run with that. Kind of back to what we were saying about that intuition or the tingles you get.
Yeah.
Because I think, when and in my experience, I guess I just, again, I kind of went back to that. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And so, whether it was, my growing up or not having that big, older sibling to kind of follow in their footsteps, I was just trying to create a path that I was excited about. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it's tough because you don't really know where you're going. So, yeah, finding some mentorship, I think, would have been, a big piece. Standing up for what
Yeah.
you believe in would probably be one of the second. That is probably going to be the one tough thing in your 20s to stand up what you truly believe in because you're just trying to survive.
Oh, and figure yourself out. I did so
Yeah,
much growing in my 20s. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm just saying, like, yes, I'm still me to my core, but the girl you knew, I am like
yeah,
so far removed from that. Like, in good ways, though, like in growth
yeah,
ways. Like, I'm no longer numbing my pain with partying. You're dealing with my shit and healing and all the things and
absolutely.
stepping back into myself. So I think that's important to note too for people is if you lose yourself or if you are dealing with things, you can
Yeah,
bounce back. Like you can
yeah,
do it.
absolutely. I know one of the other mentors I had too, and she still is to this day, and she's a friend and mom figure. People call us Thelma and Louise when we're on vacation. Like we're just,
Oh,
and so she said things to me like, I know who I am and I know where I'm going. And just the way she said it was powerful, and I kind of would say it to myself. And when I first started saying it to myself, it was this week, like, I think I know who I am. And I might know where I'm going. And now it's like, I know who I am and I know where I'm going. And so
yes.
just find that thing that makes you stick and that saying, that affirmation, and you tell yourself it every morning and every night and run with it and love and embrace that.
Yes, and don't let people shake you. If you know, and we're talking when you know, no, not when you're kind of
Yeah.
iffy about it. It's when you know, no, no one can take that from you. And from my
Yeah.
experience, it took me a long ass time to kind of figure out my direction. Because again, too, I'm like, I want to do everything, and I have 5 million
Yeah.
ideas. I'm gonna do them all. It's like, girl, slow your roll, one at a time. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
And it comes back to, or sometimes I think about, in my life, like I wasn't a girl who married her high school sweetheart. I had different relationships, like you said, different job and aspirations. And so, I even found, I had friends that were really close to me being critics because, I only wanted what the guy wanted. I didn't have my own hobby or thing. When I went, that's not true because even when I went into triathlon as a perfect little example, I was already involved in the triathlon world and I met a guy in the triathlon world. But to them, the outsider looking in, it was, oh, she just did triathlons because that guy liked it, or, I like going ice fishing,
Mhm.
but now it's just because my current partner, Logan, who I absolutely love and adore, he likes that. But everyone forgot that in high school, I did an entire year of wildlife training and went on a crazy trip up north. And,
That's so
so I think,
cool.
yeah, like, take an adventure. Why not? you know?
Heck yeah. I love
Just,
that.
um,
Yeah, and that's it. Like that's it's such a good point. Like that you're like I've already been all up in this stuff. It was not because of another person. This was my thing and I just followed that and you just happened to encounter people along the way. Like,
yeah, and those experiences always stay with you, right? Like I am so glad that, and to this day, those friends are still in my life. And it wasn't a, earth shattering, oh my goodness, it was just a comment, but it stuck with you, right? And
mhm.
I knew what I believed in, that I knew that those were things that I was truly interested in. I wasn't doing them for anyone else. And so that's another thing to kind of tell my younger self is that do it for you, not for somebody else. If there's something
Yes.
you're running at, you do it for you, not because someone else is influencing you to do it. And that's tough, right? Because we're all faced with a lot of challenges, especially in our younger 20s.
Oh, yes, that journey, girl, like trying to find yourself and like trying all the things because you're not sure like what feels right for me. Oh my God, I can so relate to that.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
it
gosh,
is.
in a big way. And it's like, it's just important because we're all
Yeah,
different. I think some people naturally can stand in their own ground easier, and then
yeah,
others you have to learn it a little more. It depends, I think. And it depends who you're
yeah,
around. There's so many things, but at the end of the day, it does always come back to you. And no
yeah,
matter what, find what works for you. If you have to say like affirmations or things to be
yeah,
like, I'm not going to be swayed by this. This is me. This is my
yeah,
truth. And that's what's up. That's the tea.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, and that can change. And, I think sometimes as, an entrepreneur and, even when you're building yourself as a professional, you're some people are a little hesitant to, kind of tell people what their goals are. And I actually think that's okay sometimes because,
Yeah.
again, you're going to go back to, they may be that critic that you just stop what you're doing. And I think it's okay that, you have your own time, whether it's, like me, sometimes I'll literally have to schedule time in, to do my affirmation stuff or my vision boards or, kind of those personal goals, or it's a nightly thing or morning thing. But I think keeping those front and center, whether you tell people or not, is so important because it keeps you accountable and it keeps you
Exactly.
moving forward. And sometimes when you open things up, and it's okay to, but beware that you will get criticism, whether good or bad.
Exactly. And I think too, having the safe people who you know are going to tell you things with love, because there's ways people say things sometimes where I'm like, you're not saying that for my best intention. You're saying that because of
Yep.
whatever you're dealing with. And that has absolutely nothing to
Yeah.
do with me. So I think being mindful of who you choose to be open
Yeah.
with is also
Yeah.
very key, because even if they're telling you something that may be more on the criticism side, if it's said with love and you know it's meant with good intentions,
Yeah.
it can be received differently and it may not take the wind out of your sails. So I think that's always important to note for people as
Yeah.
well, because sometimes it's so challenging. The people that are closest in our lives maybe aren't the people you should talk to about some of these things. And I hate saying that, but it's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Oh, it is for sure. And I think that, it sucks that way too, because especially as, I'm 10 years in my career. And so now I really am looking back to kind of pass it forward and, start my mentorship role with people that are younger than myself. And
Yeah.
again, you know what? I shouldn't even say younger because it may just be someone that's just starting out or whatever, right?
You can
Sometimes the age.
mentor me. Yeah. I'm older than you, but I'll take your boss bitch wisdom every day.
Exactly. So, yeah, and I think it kind of for me, I've always truly believed that you never know what you say can hurt or, empower someone. And so I think you're right, that criticism has to be very, you have to be careful about sometimes how you say it, even though, right, it needs to be said sometimes, but you've got to be careful on how that person interprets it and the effects and impact it can have because words have so much impact. And I am not just a sensitive woman when I say that.
No, oh my God, no. And it's sometimes it's how it's said too. It's like
Yeah.
there's all these factors. I know we're talking about public speaking and things, but that comes back, it's tone, right? How you like you could say the exact same sentence as someone else, but if you say it differently, you're gonna take it differently. Like,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
right. I feel like people need to remember too, because sometimes I've encountered people, they don't think that their tone sounds a certain type of way. And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you hear yourself? Like, it does. It sounds mean. Yeah. I'll record you. You sound real serious right now, and I don't know how to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. Yeah, it can change very quickly, and that dynamic can change.
Right. And like, you don't want no one taking the wind out of your sails when you know what's up. And that's again, it comes back to what Shayla said. You need to stand true in yourself. And it's, again, for
Yeah.
some, it's easier than others. It's been a process for me for sure. Like, oh God, the
Yeah.
things that happen in life can shift you and change you, not in bad ways, but the
Yeah.
challenges can affect how you see yourself. And if you're rebuilding that sense of self,
Yeah.
lean in and love yourself, because you are
Yeah.
awesome and beautiful and you deserve everything. All of us do. Every human who is here for a reason. We're all here to impact in some way. Doesn't matter what that looks like, because we're all different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just truly leaning in. I think that's so important.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, I agree. I think being that, so true to who you really are. And that changes sometimes. You might not know that certain points, like you said, and you can always find that again. But I think, what people run into and where they kind of go off their path is when you're right, they're not listening to what that means for them. They might not know who they are, and so they're trying to be someone they're not. And again, going back to even social media, that is like the death of people sometimes when it comes to changing
Yeah,
who they are. Overnight it seems like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna quit everything and do this. And that's great. But is that really what you want? Because I find
exactly.
even too from a relationship standpoint to family to I'm not where I want to be in business. You open TikTok or I don't know TV even sometimes, right? And all
Yeah.
of a sudden it's like I don't even know who I am or what I'm doing or
It's
whatever.
the
So that's why
comparitis,
it's
right? Like,
bouncing. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, the comparing, it's a different world, because I just feel like it's just exploded so much. And again, it's a good thing, but it's also got it's like anything in life. I feel like it's a little too much sometimes. We need some moderation, because what you
Yeah,
see again is the highlight reel for the most part. Like I know people keep it real and people post things that are vulnerable, which is awesome. But for the
yeah,
most part, you're in control of what you're putting out there, and people are going to take it as like
yeah,
what they see, and they may not
yeah,
know all the other parts that are in there because they're
yeah.
just seeing one thing. So, yeah, that's so, so true. Comparitis. We love you, social media, in some ways, but we do not like you in other ways.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, you've shared so much awesome wisdom with us. This conversation flew. I'm like, we're gonna have you back because I feel like there's more we could touch on. But do you have any final words of wisdom for us?
Yeah, I agree, Kaylee. Honestly, I feel like we could talk forever. There's so many stories that, everyone kind of goes through and has in their path. And yeah, I think some of the things that I've learned in, my past that, whether it's I wish I knew them sooner, or I'm just really happy I know them now, is
Yes.
just I know who I am and I know where I'm going. And I think that's something, if you can find out what that is, listen to that, rehearse it, practice it, envision it, and make that happen. And it is maybe just make it happen is in your head, right? You'll find a
Yeah.
way to do it. If you really believe in what you're doing, you will find a way to make it happen.
Mic drop. That was amazing. Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you so, so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kaylee, so much for having me. It was fantastic. Love catching up with you and happy to continue to see your growth and your journey as well.
Yes, we're just two boss babes supporting each other, you know? That's another thing
Love it.
too. Lessen the competition with women. We can all go there together. Like, let's go, girls.
Absolutely.
Shania Twain said it best. Let's go, girls.
Yeah, she said it the best, and I'm still singing it to this day.
Oh, that song. Okay, I love the meme where it's like, I don't know what it is, but when I hear Let's Go Girls, I want to kick a door down. I so relate to that. I feel like everyone who loves that song feels the same way. As soon as you hear it, the
Yeah,
Let's Go Girls, and then that
yeah.
first beat, I'm like, okay, we're here, clear the dance floor.
I'm fired up. Let's do this.
Yes. Maybe that
Yeah,
could be people's pump up song. If you need to get yourself going in the morning, just put that on.
I agree. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Also, too, did you want to plug in your social medias or anything? If people want to reach out, maybe people listening in Saskatchewan might want to check out Sype. If you'd like to plug anything in, you can go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've stayed pretty true to my name for social media platforms. I'd be pretty confident on my LinkedIn and Facebook is probably the best places to find me, which is Shayla Romanyshyn. That's my brand, and that's where you can find me on some of those channels. So yeah, I would love for anyone to reach out if there's, any curiosity with anything we talked about. I am absolutely open and ears for some chats.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. And you're so great to talk to. So, anyone listening, if you feel called to reach out to Shayla, she's so great. I'll definitely, if you're on YouTube, in the description box, everything will be linked there for Shayla. And also on the podcast, the show notes, you can find all the links there. So, if you want to check her out, I'll make sure I have everything listed so there'll be no confusion. And we were talking about her name earlier, so you won't miss her. I'm sure you're the only one, the only Shayla Romanyshyn that's there. So,
I think so. Yeah, we are a rare bunch, those Ukrainians with unique last names. So I would say so. You'll be able to find me, no problem.
oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I just want to express my gratitude to you again. I really appreciate it. Like, this just means the world to me because I feel like each soul that comes on this or listens or whatever, you're building something with me, and it's just beautiful to see it. And it just fills me with so much joy. And I love hearing your stories and just letting you share your light with the world because you're shining, girl.
Thanks, Gail. I really appreciate that. And, honestly, right back to you. I think it's amazing what you are working on and what you're growing. And I'm 100% behind you to support and appreciate it. And I agree. I think women can do a lot when we're working together and not working against each other. So thank you for having me. I appreciate this, love it, and look forward to hearing some more podcasts from you.
Preach it, sister. I think that's the perfect way to end our tea time for today, everyone. So, thank you to the listeners. I want to express my love and light to you as always, and we will see you next week. Bye.